viewers, you're watching India Today Global, and the biggest news that we're covering for you at this hour is the extradition of Tahawwur Rana, one of the key masterminds behind 26/11 attacks on India. Now he's being extradited, now he's back in New Delhi, he's going to be given to NIA, he's going to be later lodged in Tihar jail. Now this is a legal breakthrough, it's a big terror catch for India, it's a journey that spanned over 14 years, several courtrooms, over 2 regimes in India. So it's a big development that's happening now, and to assess this I have with me our principal correspondent Shashank Mattu. So Shashank, walk us through what happens next now that Tahawwur Rana has landed in New Delhi.
Right, so he's landed in Delhi. He was brought in from the United States. A multi-agency team had basically gone from India, including folks from the NIA, the research analysis wing, so on and so forth, had gone there, completed the formalities and paperwork, picked him up, brought him back to India. Now, of course, he's going to be arrested by the NIA. He's going to be, some basic procedural formalities will happen. He's first of all being picked up in an armored vehicle. He's being brought to NIA headquarters. The NIA chief is actually there right now in headquarters. So then after that, a lot of procedural formalities will be done, medicals and so on and so forth. Then a team of lawyers is, of course, meeting right now as well. Yesterday night, we had the government of India announced that a prosecutor had been appointed to look into the case. So now a number of lawyers who have been on this case for a long time are basically sitting down, and they're going to be looking at going to the courts, asking them for custody of Tahawwur Rana for a particular amount of time, so that the procedure, the investigation can formally begin, and the process of prosecuting Tahawwur Rana can also begin. He'll also probably be debriefed in this regard. He'll also be interrogated somewhat as the investigation begins into him. So just over the initial couple of days and weeks, this is basically what's going to happen throughout the course of today and also in just the immediate future.
All right. Of course, a lot of security arrangements have been made in place. Now, my question to you is that Tahawwur Rana was basically involved in providing logistical support to a lot of other conspirators behind the 26/11 attacks. So, what are the charges? What will be the line of questioning by our intelligence agencies in this case now?
Right. So, the key accusation against Tahawwur Rana is providing material support to the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which was the LET, which was the terror group that carried out the attacks on 26/11. Now, the important thing to remember here is that Tahawwur Rana was at one point in time a doctor in the Pakistan Army. He allegedly deserted, then went to Canada. After he went to Canada, he moved to Chicago in the United States, and he set up an immigration agency there. He also then reconnected with an old friend of his from Pakistan, David Headley. And basically, the accusation against him is that he allowed David Headley to have a front given to him as an immigration consultant, because Tahawwur Rana had an immigration agency, and that allowed David Headley to be in Mumbai, to carry out reconnaissance, to carry out these attacks. Exactly, right? And Tahawwur Rana himself visited India himself as well. So that's basically the substance of the charge, that he had planned out these attacks, that he was in the know about these attacks, that he had provided a front for the LET and its operatives to basically travel to various countries and also carry out reconnaissance activities there. So it's a whole range of accusations that basically all boiled on to providing material support to the LET, which is what he was convicted of even in the United States. Now, the important thing to remember is that he was not convicted of his involvement in the 26/11 attacks in America, because he was planning an attack on a Danish newspaper, and that had published certain articles and so on that they felt that it was felt by the LET were insulting to Prophet Muhammad. So that was the attack for which he was arrested and then jailed for providing material support. And of course, now he's been extradited here as well. So those are basically the substances of the charges against him, that in the LET attacks in 26/11, he was the one who allowed David Headley, who was really one of the masterminds of the attack, to basically allow this to happen.
All right. Now, you mentioned Pakistan and Canada. We've seen that, he has nationality from Canada. And of course, this was the first statement that came from Pakistan. Now, Indian agencies have been trying to establish the connection of Pakistan in the attacks for long now. And this will be one of the biggest catch that we have. So how do you think will be the reaction from Pakistan, from Canada? And of course, how will this play out for India as well?
Right. So I think that there is no doubt in the minds of most Indians or in the minds of intelligence agencies that in fact This was carried out with the explicit direction and support of the Pakistani government. In fact, the former Pakistani ambassador to the United States, Hussain Haqqani, wrote a book where he also acknowledged that when he spoke to people he knew in intelligence, it was very clear. In fact, the phrase used by Pakistani intelligence were "Log hamare the, operation hamara nahi tha," which was that the people were ours, but the operation wasn't necessarily ours. So, of course, there was definitely an understanding within the Pakistani government as well that this also had imprints of support from the Pakistani intelligence agency. So, absolutely, there is a link there. But yes, absolutely, Tahawwur Rana, the idea will be to interrogate him to see what kind of information he can bring out to bear, and of course, if that gives India diplomatic leverage that it can use to then, for example, put pressure Pakistan, both in international forums as well, to put more pressure on understanding how groups like the LET work, what their networks are, how exactly they plan and carry out operations. So understanding the operations, the people involved, if he can name some names as well, that would be something I imagine would be of interest to India as well. And also whether he gives up any information that internationally can be used by India in such a way that puts more pressure on Pakistan. That's going to be important. As to the Canada angle, that has been mentioned, but so far the Canadians have been in public have said nothing.
Yes.
And frankly, if they're smart about it, I think that is the way it should remain, frankly, because I think India right now has very little patience with Canada in particular. Also, the new Prime Minister of Canada is currently in the middle of an election campaign that is going to end on the 28th of April. So they're busy with other things. Also, the important thing is that the new Canadian Prime Minister has made clear that he wants to help repair the relationship with India, particularly around trade and commerce and so on. And the sense is that if you want all of those things and you're faced with this sort of situation, you don't raise too many objections about this. Whether this becomes a problem later on is another matter. But I would imagine that because the US agencies have already convicted this Tahawwur Rana of providing material support to the LET, and because they have extradited him under their legal processes, I don't think the Canadians can really have a leg to stand on to say that so and so is going to happen to Tahawwur Rana here, he's going to be mistreated. Fundamentally, I think that if the Americans have used their legal standard to judge him and extradite him, then I think the Canadians will have to also accept that.
All right. And my last question to you is because his return has evoked a lot of painful memories for a lot of people in India.
Yeah.
When this attack happened in 2008, about 166 people died. The operation went on for hours and hours. So if you could just walk us through, take us back to that time, how the exactly operation unfolded in 2008.
Right. So basically what happened was that a group of operatives from the LET basically approached Mumbai by boat. They were able to get here, of course, slip detection, get to Mumbai, and then fan out basically various teams attacking different parts of Mumbai. Of course, we saw the major Taj Palace Hotel attacks. Those are the iconic images that you think about when you think about the attacks. Also prominent landmarks all across some religious sites, some cafes, or hitting them all over the city, of course, killing over 160 people, of course, and also various security personnel that came out to take them down. And as the hours progressed, we of course also had a strong response to the security services. We had, of course, some of them be killed, and gradually the terror threat was eliminated. Of course, we also remember the visuals of Indian basically security personnel being dropped into the Taj Palace Hotel to basically clean out, to clean out the Taj Palace Hotel. After that, Ajmal Ali Kasab was the only surviving terrorist that was then taken into custody. He was later executed years after that. So it was definitely a scarring incident both for the country but also for the national security establishment. Instantly there was almost a threat, the concern or the threat of war between India and Pakistan. That was something diplomatically we don't talk about too much. But the Americans basically then came in and said, started to intercede between the two countries and basically prevented this conflict from happening. India did not launch an attack on Pakistan, but it certainly could have gone in that direction. In fact, that was initially the reaction of the Indian government, but there was no military retaliation really against the Pakistan government, against Pakistan. There was also a major rehaul of investigation agencies and the national security apparatus, both in terms of new setting up for national security intelligence to be shared among government agencies, but also the agency that we're talking about, the NIA, was set up really and pushed after the 26/11 attacks in a really big way. So it led to major intelligence reforms, intelligence collection reform as well. India also passed the anti-terrorism acts as well to basically ensure that terrorism-related activities could be regulated more strongly in India. So I think it not just psychologically for the nation, but also I think for its intelligence agencies, for how we do
It's a big
national
change in the
security.
security
Completely
apparatus as well.
changed. I think it was, India is no stranger to terror attacks, but this is the one attack that sticks in the public memory for a very, very good reason, and I think it continues to, and I think more than 17 years on, and I think that's kind of also what plays into the major reforms that India made after that. That shows how deeply felt the sense of shame and humiliation was in India after these attacks happened.
Certainly, this was a very big attack on India, an attack that shook India, that led to changes in the security structure of the country. And now finally, we might be able to get some more answers, once the interrogation starts and he's interrogated on the line of questioning that India has been interrogating for so far.
Right.
So thank you so much for getting us all the latest, all the analysis, how India has been pushing for this, how Canada could be responding, Pakistan's reaction. So thank you so much, and viewers, stay tuned to India Today Global. We'll continue the coverage and the extradition process as well.